So today is a really special episode for me and my guests. Some of you that have listened or know me personally may know some of my story in regards to the way my family has expanded in recent years. In April of 2019, I acquired another sister. I have a lifelong sister and I have a newly acquired sister. And today we are here, the three of us, to talk a little about our story and how we found each other and what that has meant for our family moving forward and what it has meant for our lives. And I'm really excited to share this piece of my heart with you all today. So I have Rebecca here. She is my
Hi.
lifelong sister. And Elise is here. She is my newly found sister, Rebecca and I's newly found sister. Welcome, my beautiful, lovely sisters.
Thank you for having me.
Happy to be here.
Not really, listeners. Rebecca is super unhappy to be here, but she lets me talk her into shit. So here we are. Elise is happy to be here. She is the reason we are all here today and together. Elise, I would love it if you shared a little bit about your relentless search to really find your dad, right? Because you didn't really even know that there were sisters involved. All of us have the same dad. For those listening, we'll catch you up to speed a little bit here, but we all share a dad. And Elise was in hot pursuit to find out who that was.
Yes. So of course, when you're younger and things like that, oh, where's dad? And backstory a little bit. We're all from Indiana, obviously. I grew up in Michigan, though. My mom ended up coming to Michigan on some other things. She was with a man, no good, on the run, blah blah blah. They both did time together, and we came to Michigan in foster care. Long story short, mom found a place, got her stuff together, all that good stuff, and I just always wondered, but she never would tell me. She never told me anything ever, ever, ever. And so eventually, I stopped asking until I got probably maybe like 18. I feel like 18, 19. I finally asked her, and she gave me dad's name and said that he had two daughters. But that was it. That was it. There was nothing else. That it was never discussed again. And from there, I kind of was like, okay, yeah, I tried to look, but it was impossible to spell the last name. Couldn't find it's impossible. It was impossible to spell the last name. I looked high and low, and then I kind of gave up. And I did an ancestry.com, and found our cousin Chris, and he pretty much was like, yeah, like, I know who your dad is. This is a little bit of my story. This is a little bit of um technically our bio grandmother story as well. He has a lot of back information, and I believe he sent the picture to me, actually, of Becky's wedding. Somehow we had found it, and then I also was with someone at that time who was helping me search nonstop, search, and I think that he's actually who contacted Becky.
He is. That's who reached out.
Yep, because he was like, "Do you think?" And I was like, "I don't know, but damn near sure, like, I'm pretty freaking positive." And then from there, it was kind of like, it is what it is. I was fully welcomed, wasn't denied by dad or anything, and I just was like, "Hey, what's up? We're sisters, and let's be open. What's up?"
Yeah, it's really cool to have that initial email to see it. And then we all, of course, jumped on like this three-way chat and just sort of dove right in. And it was really cool to hear some of the things you mentioned. Our cousin Chris, who you originally became connected with through these ancestry type tests, and he is full of knowledge. And as it turns out, we are not the only story like this in our family history. There's a lot of people, himself included, who was sort of displaced or doesn't know who his natural parents were. So there was a lot of adopting out in that side of the family in that time. Dad is adopted as well. And so he too has a history of not knowing for sure who his father is. And I don't know if that's something that has weighed on his heart and mind over the years, like it did yours. I don't know that he's ever pursued finding that out, but I am just so thankful that you did, because just having you come into our lives has just been such a miracle, as Becky, I'm sure, agrees.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we had a vague recollection that you were there. And we knew that you had reached out to grandma, but all of the information we had was so limited, and almost all of it was wrong except your birth date and where you were born. And I kept that piece of paper taped to my desk. It's yellowed and the edges are all torn in, and it was there for all those years and years and years. And then out of the blue, here's an email with a picture from my first wedding. And if this man's your dad, I'm pretty sure I know who your sister is. And I mean, I called Sarah immediately, absolutely immediately. My heart was pounding out of my chest. I was like, oh my gosh, this is her, this is her. And then when we got your name and we looked you up on Facebook, I'm like, yeah.
Well,
So
she looks just like Dad. Look at that. And she looks very much like Rebecca. And I look like I'm from somebody else for sure. But it's fine.
Girl.
We
And it
just
was a
got the
miracle.
dark
It was a
hairs,
straight
that's
miracle.
all.
It was one of the best days of my life.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, those are the surprises that come very few and far between in one's lifetime. And to have a new sister step into your life, and for us to just be able to connect and click like we did, and almost like we didn't miss a beat. It was almost like, yeah, for sure she's my sister. Like, this is the missing puzzle
Right.
piece.
Yeah, I definitely understand that.
For sure.
I mean, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. It's that same connection that people have with their, like, when you don't see your high school best friend for 20 years and you start talking to them and it's like you don't miss a beat. I mean, we had no beats to go back to, but it was just immediate. I mean, as soon as I start speaking to you, as soon as I see you, I mean, we're just there. And it's just amazing.
Well, I think a lot of that too is the generational blood and just history that runs through all of us in our ancestral line, that we are all actually truly connected in that way. And it's almost like you just know who your people are.
Yeah.
And that's true what you say too about like not missing a beat with people that have been out of your bubble for a long time. I recently connected with my elementary school best friend, and it was like we stepped right back into where we were, and both acknowledged like we'll always be best friends on some level. And it's like we were always sisters on some level.
Yep. Your people are just your people. Like you said, it just is what it is.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about why you really just felt it in your heart that you wanted to find Dad.
I wanted to know my culture. So obviously I'm Puerto Rican. My family's from Puerto Rico. My grandfather lived there, died there. My mom's sister still goes there, and we miss that. Like I said, with my mom coming to Michigan, and as we know, our dad was a rebel, and she loved that. She loved that was her thing. She wanted the rebels, and you know, we didn't get to enjoy any of our family, not just you guys. We didn't get to enjoy her side either. We didn't get the trips to Puerto Rico that our cousins got, and got to actually interact with our family and things like that. And when I come into my daily life, and clearly I'm Hispanic, Latina, clearly. Um, and it's hard when people are like, hey, do you speak Spanish? And I have to be like, no, like, so I really wanted to know, like, yeah, I know I'm Puerto Rican. So what about the other side? And actually, that's really the beginning of what started Ancestry.com, because it breaks everything down to you. Um, but yeah, I wanted to know, and I wanted to know that side. We didn't have anybody. It was me, my mom, and my brother here. Now I have some young ladies that I grew up with that I call my sisters, and I did think that that was my father because we all look hell of alike. You know what I mean? We all look like we could be sisters. So, but it was never that connection, if that makes sense.
It
That
does.
connection was never the same. Of like, you could see it amongst them, but I felt like I was still kind of like an outsider and a little misunderstood sometimes. So that's what it was. I wanted to know my background and my culture and the family aspect. I'm pretty family oriented, and I wanted to know that. So it sucks it took so long, but I believe that there's a reason why it took so long.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot in the past too.
Yes.
People that may follow me on my social platforms, aside from this podcast platform, may have seen things that I've shared about Dad. Dad is very openly a lifelong recovering drug addict and alcoholic. And that was a very bumpy road for Becky and I growing up. And we've talked about it before, where would you have benefited from coming into his life during that turmoil? Because you got to meet Dad since he's been sober, which has been just such a blessing. Like, I am so glad that you get to see him in this light. And, he's not a perfect person. None of us are.
Of course.
But
Right.
he has a different mindset and outlook on life at this point in his journey that is so new and fresh and beautiful to see, at least from my perspective, that I'm glad that that's what you walked into.
Me too. I think that's kind of what I needed at this age, to kind of have still somebody to rely on. Even though we don't talk, like me and Dad are a lot alike. We're like, oh fuck it, whatever. We can go back and forth and have conversations about anything, conspiracy theories, UFOs, God, freaking, like we're so alike that it's like, what the fuck?
But what's
So
awesome is that Dad was not always open to those conversations. Like, he was guarded or judgmental of many of those type of topics in the past. So I love that you get to just freely talk to him like that and kind of just see who he is at this point.
Yes, and he's always on time. Like I said, we might not talk and stuff, but he knows me, even though we don't, like, there's still a lot of learning amongst all of us. Because it's 30 years, man, 30 freaking years. But he still sends me birthday cards and stuff, and they're always like super on point. Like, I don't know.
He gets the
It's
best
just
cards.
crazy. He does. Like, how do you know me, but you don't know me? So I don't know. It is. It's a great feeling. I feel like it came just in time to show me that, because everybody has I guess everybody whose father was around, or even was per se, has some kind of daddy complex, they call it. And he came to the point where he could still show me, like, I could still be here for you. I could still, you could still lean on me. You could still trust me and talk to me and things like that, of all those years of me not getting that. And maybe that's what my daddy issue was, I guess, if you want to put it like that. So he came in like perfect timing. It was perfect timing. It was perfect timing.
Yeah, there's definitely a time and place for everything. And there's a reason that it waited as long as it did. For
Mhm,
sure.
mhm.
Becky, what were some of the things that you had pursued? I don't even know that I was all that aware of much younger to try to find Elise.
Well, it started out with calling the hospital. But it was a long time ago and I was so naive. I thought I could just call them and I'd be like, I need to know who the girl that was born on, July 1st. And they would just tell me. I figured they would just tell me, but they don't do that. So I started searching the internet, like all those, like back when MySpace was a thing and when Facebook was a thing. And but I had the wrong name. The name I had written down on that paper was Alyssa Rodriguez. And clearly that is not your name.
Mhm.
And I must have looked at 500 million zillion Elisa Rodriguez's throughout the world of the internet and all these pictures. And I'm like, nope, 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 impossible, nope, nope. And then, I never had the money to a private investigator could have found you. And I wish I would have ever had the money to do that. But again, like Sarah said, maybe it's just not the right time. And that it happened this way for a reason.
Mhm.
My own personal reasons for doing ancestry.com. I wanted to do it years ago, but for personal reasons, I didn't.
Mhm.
But like Sarah said, maybe all that happened for a reason. So at this time and in this place, we could all be together.
Right.
I think there's a reason for everything for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I will say though is like just the different upbringings that we had. And, dad was not a great father figure, right? He's not the one that you went to for advice or looked up to or any of those things, but our grandfather was. And like, I'll probably start crying here. I'm getting choked up even talking about him. But I wish you could have known them, like that's the one thing that like makes me question like this timing thing that we're talking about, like a time for everything. Because I can remember it was after grandpa passed away, but grandma still lived in her house in Hammond. And we were sitting there talking about, I don't know what, she just got on of a baby that was born, a little girl that was born. And she said your mom's name. And then right then I remembered your mom. And because, again, there's like a 10-year age difference. And I remembered Becky and I being at your mom's house. And I remembered your sister and playing in the sand outside. And there's that memory of being at your mom's house with your siblings. And then that's like right away I knew like, oh yeah,
That's
dad,
who it is.
that's who it is. Dad was, with her mom. And but grandma didn't seem to know how to like reach you or get a hold of you. And she was afraid to. I know that too. She was worried about what it would mean from all angles, I'm sure. And then not long after that, I came over to her house, and I remember her saying that somebody had called or something. Like, I don't know if it was you or somebody like on your behalf, but it was somebody saying that they knew somebody that was looking for their dad. And they thought maybe that grandma knew who that was. And I don't know if that was you or if that was somebody on your behalf, but it really like kind of upset her because she just out of fear instinctively like just like denied that she knew anything about anything and just basically hung up the phone. And she was so upset that she did that. And this was a time before like she didn't even have caller ID. Like there was
Right.
this was before any like calling back could have been done. And I remember her just being so upset when I came over and she told me about that. And she's like, what do I do? I hung up. And I think that might have been somebody we wanted to talk to.
So I don't remember that. What if that was Aaron?
I don't know. So let's talk
girl.
about Aaron. It was a little girl, but
Oh, it was a girl. I don't remember, but again, that's not impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know you had a lot of different ways that you were searching. So maybe there was a phone call that was made and a number that was found. And our family name is unique and it is not
Yeah.
one that many people have. So certainly a number could have came across, but let's back up for a second because you mentioned a name that I wasn't sure if we were going to mention today, but since we put it out there, yeah, we have a brother as well that we found all of us by surprise, right? We didn't even, none of us knew he was out there. What was it, about a year after your gotcha date?
Yeah.
Wasn't it about, was it?
I don't even think it was that.
I think it was
I don't
that
know.
summer.
Yeah, I don't even think it was a year.
So Aaron's our brother and he is older than all of us. And we found him in the same way. He had done an ancestry test for other reasons. I won't get too involved with his story because I don't want to speak his truth and he's not here to speak on it himself, but he found us by accidents, which I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. And, you know, Aaron, if you're listening, we would welcome you with open arms as well, but there really hasn't been a ton of initiative taken in wanting to establish that connection, but I really wish he would.
To each his own.
For sure. I know that he doesn't have an interest in, he had a very different upbringing too. So he had a great childhood. He had a great father figure in his life. He doesn't, I don't think, have that daddy complex you were talking about of like thinking there was something lacking. I think he's very satisfied with what his father figure experience was, though he's always known that you know, that his birth dad was out there. So, but irregardless, you know, I, like you say, to each their own journey with that. But I would love to know my brother for sure. But I mean, that's probably a podcast for a different day.
Right.
I'll tell you, I
That's
spoke with
what I
him
was
once
saying.
on the phone and it was a very good conversation. It was a long conversation, but it was only one time and it was several years ago. And I feel the same way. If he wants to, he knows we're here.
For
Yep.
sure.
And he knows where to find us.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. Let's talk about our upbringings a little bit. Who wants to start? Crickets.
Dum dum dum.
So, I mean, I've mentioned, you know, obviously about dad, you know, with his challenges over the years, and our mom had similar challenges. They were different ones, but in that same realm of things of addictions and whatnot. And our grandparents were the cornerstone of our childhood for sure on both sides. Without them, things would have, who knows, been what would have looked very different for sure. But that's not to say that there's not a lot of things to need healing from. You know, you can
Mhm.
only be protected from so much in that regard. And I know all of us have been on independent healing journeys from all types of things for the last several years. I think we've all embraced that quite a bit. But, you know, I speak for myself when I say there was a lot to be desired, I guess, from my own upbringing. I feel like I've always been an adult.
You have always
And-
been an adult.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have in some capacity. And I believe I've heard Elise say that about herself too. Like she's always just kind of had to step up and be responsible for things that she probably shouldn't have had to be responsible for. So that's my little cliff note on that. What about you, Becky? What do you have to contribute to that?
Well, I mean, it was our grandparents that basically raised us. I mean, mom worked sometimes 2 jobs. We shuffled back and forth. I mean, we did get to see dad from time to time. Most of my memories of our time spent with him are not super pleasant. When he would take his weekends, when we would get to see him. And, you know, unlike you, I just kind of let them do their thing. You know, I didn't feel like I had to, help like you did. You've always wanted to help and, fix things. And I always just kind of run away from things and turn my backs on things. But saying it left a lot to be desired is true. But the fact that we had both sets of grandparents, I mean, into our 40s, we lost our last grandparent. And that's amazing. I mean,
Truly.
the blessing of having all of them was, it changed my life and how I look at people and how I interact with people. I mean, they were amazing. I mean, I love both of our parents with all my heart. I mean, there's no animosity there. It's just, we were raised by our grandparents.
Yeah.
For the most part.
And, I would say like the different ways that we responded to our childhood experiences, even though we grew up in the same house, was just a way that we coped with it. I mean, we just coped with it in different ways. And that's just our different personalities.
Absolutely.
So I don't know that there is any right or wrong way in it. And even as sisters, we have healing to do amongst each other to understand or at least respect the other's approach to things like that, so absolutely. I mean, when you grow up in an environment that is challenging for whatever reason, it affects all the people, not just the people that are making it challenging. In this instance, the adults who were alcoholics and or drug addicts. And that's just the truth of our parents. I mean, there's no getting around that. Dad was a very, what would the word be, like, I guess, dysfunctional addict. He couldn't go about normal life, where mom was what we would call like a functioning alcoholic or a responsible alcoholic, in that she still went to work every day. She still, for the most part, did what she needed to do. But, the amount of times you'd come home and, find your parent passed out and not be able to wake them up are memories that are very present in my mind still. So those types of things are still definitely something that I'm on my own healing journey with. What about you, Elise? Tell me about what your upbringing looked like.
Well, real quick, I just want to hit on that topic about with you guys being raised with the grandparents. That is something that I wish, like you were saying too, at the time, like, was it the right time? Because I really wish that I could have experienced that, and maybe here my life would have had a different outcome. But as far as my upbringing goes, it was just me, mom, and DJ. And when we came here from Indiana, we were in foster care. They wanted to adopt us. Mom said no way. She got us back in about a year, I believe, and things were okay. But we were in a we lived in the hood. That's where we grew up. That's how we grew up. Pretty much the only white people on the block. And mom worked a lot. She pretty much, I kind of raised myself per se. DJ,
always an adult.
Yes. Yep. DJ was doing his own thing, obvious, doing his own thing, and wasn't available often for a long time. So yeah, it was more so always being adult. And then when I hit my 20s, mom got dementia. DJ was actually home for maybe 2 weeks, so he got 2 good weeks with her. And then she had a really bad stroke, and then that's when she had dementia. So she was with her husband for maybe a year and a half, if that, and then I ended up, getting guardianship of her and took care of her for the past 11 years. So
it's incredible.
A little different, but not impossible.
I love that. I love that you said that. A little different, but not impossible. That should be like our mantra every day.
Yeah, it's a little different, but it's not impossible. So yeah, but I really do wish that I would have been able to experience at least that part, grandma and grandpa's, and they're in there making breakfast, and we're outside running around being assholes, and like I wish that I was able to have that and experience that, because it's almost, I mean, obviously I have my brother and that's my right hand. As adults, we're adults now, but I was almost the only child in a way, like almost. So and that's how I wandered off and found my sisters. So
who you thought were your sisters.
who I thought was my sisters, yeah. And even that relationship is different now. I don't think I've even seen Rain or TT in like a year now.
Hmm. People come and go in our lives for a reason. Not everybody's meant to stay. People are here to teach us lessons one way or another. And not all of those people stay once those lessons are learned.
But what about something that's supposed to be a lifetime sisterhood?
Mm-hmm.
These were my sisters. That
Yeah.
how do you um I do understand. Just like, for instance, we were supposed to go tubing for my birthday. This would have been our first, get together, da da da, and I hurt my back. And I kept telling my
Mm-hmm.
boyfriend that I feel like that was a reason. There was a reason why I was supposed to take those 4 days and relax and not be, because I probably would have been out there, drinking, probably got drunk. It's my birthday. I had a good time, but are these the right people that I'm supposed to be around?
Well, that's what I was just gonna say when you're talking about how you felt that it was the timing really right, and did this happen because you maybe weren't supposed to go, because and I don't know anything about your relationships with these ladies, but what I will say is that the universe has a way of showing you who's supposed to be and who is not supposed to be in your life. And sometimes it's little suggestions like that. Something happens and you can't go,
Right.
and it doesn't even mean the people necessarily. Sometimes just maybe you weren't supposed to be there at that time. Wow, that's such a rabbit hole we could really go down in regards to the scripts that we have written for ourselves from the universe, the way that we have established soul contracts. And that's a whole nother conversation, another podcast. But those things mean something, just like us coming together the way we did, just like you finding us, just like you being able to meet Dad, like that all means something. It's supposed to happen in that way for a reason.
Yep. Unfortunately, but yeah.
Yeah. But I will say too about, you talk about the grandparents' experience, and I think, I knew Grandma pretty well. Her and I were very close. And Grandma was very proper in a lot of ways and very much caring about what everybody else thought about her. And if I know her well and would speak for her, I think that she, even though she knew that there was somebody out there, was very, very concerned about how it would reflect on her if her son, if her son had a child that he didn't claim. And you obviously weren't the first, right? I mean, he had done that with Aaron.
Well, the story that I was told was not necessarily that he didn't claim me, essentially. What he told me, that my mom came to him and was like, I'm pregnant, I want child support. And he was like, give me a DNA test. And she was like, deuces, which for him, I can understand how he sees that. From me and from what I know and what I can remember is we were in a way took from Indiana. She kind of agreed to leave, but she kind of had to leave. The man that we left with was a really, 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 really bad man. He was a really bad man. I think that he might even still be in prison to this day, if I'm correct. I'm not 100% sure, but he was a really bad man. So, but I will say that she could have done a little bit more and could have maybe tried. And I mean, fuck the child support. It's not about that.
Mm-hmm.
But her way of looking at things and what she knows of dad and what they probably things that they did together and how they were, she maybe didn't want that for me.
Yeah. No,
But
and I
you
can
get
understand that
to
for
know the
sure.
other side. You never even got to know the parents, you know, his parents and things of that. I again, I could have been fully loved with open arms, and not
Right.
saying I'm sure I would have been, but I just feel like it just would have been a different, even self love for me. It just would have that outcome and things would have been different, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't meant to be like that.
I want to touch on what you said there in just a second, but I want to retract back for a moment and just make sure that you know that I'm not like making excuses for grandma for her knowledge of things and not pushing it. But I will, my point of all that was just to say she made a lot of decisions like that based on being afraid.
But you have to understand that
It was not right.
no, it's not right, but the characteristic ways of that time
Mm-hmm.
is the exact same reason why dad is a product of his own environment in a way, if that makes sense.
Correct.
That's where that comes from. So again, I can be bitter about something, but be like, damn, you know what? Back in that time, that wasn't accepted. That it wasn't accepted. It wasn't the same. You had to go if you had a baby out of wedlock, or you had, you know, you were a mistress and you had a child. You got to go to a different state, my girl. I don't know what you
Mhm.
thought. You gonna go to this school thing, and that's where you're gonna be till you have this baby,
Yes.
and then you're gonna give it up. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna give it up, and then you're gonna come back here and act like nothing never happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
how it just was at that time. It just is what it is.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because we've shared this with you, Elise, but not everybody knows this. But exactly what you just described, a woman out of wedlock being sent away to have her baby and give it away, is exactly the truth that happened to our mom.
Mm.
Our mom had a baby girl before she
Marcia?
had Becky. Her given name was Marcia. I don't know if that's her name now.
Probably not.
But she's a few years older than Becky, and she's not from dad. She's somebody else that I think some people know who. There's a lot of mystery surrounding her still. It's a journey that Becky and I plan to go on. My mom never knew that I knew of her.
Mm-hmm.
She was deeply internally damaged and destroyed by having to be forced to give away her baby.
I bet.
And she knew Becky knew, but the fact that Becky knew was devastating to her. And she made Becky promise not to tell
ashamed.
me. Yeah, she was very
Yeah,
ashamed.
she was ashamed and embarrassed.
You want to
And
mention?
it wasn't fair. That's not fair.
No, no, absolutely not. But like you said, you know, the time in the world, the very conservative Catholic home that she grew up in contributed to a decision being made that was not her own. And she had to live with that. What do you want to say about that, Becky?
Just that my heart broke for her. We only spoke of it one time when I asked her, and I just watched her crumble. I watched her face, just the sadness, but it just was overwhelming. And she was so upset. And she said, "This is a part of my life I don't ever want to talk to you about. Please don't ever bring it up again." And I never did. That's the personal reason for not having done ancestry earlier than that, at least. Otherwise, I would have done that years ago, but I didn't do it for that reason.
Oh,
Yeah, we've stalled doing that out of fear of hurting our mom, because we knew that there's a high likelihood that something from her side will be revealed. And now that our mom is gone, we'll pursue that for sure, because it will forever be in the back of my mind, I wish I would have asked her about her. But there was so much pain and hurt in my mom's life, especially the last year or two of it, that I rationalized with myself that I did not want to be the person that brought her any more
More
suffering.
pain. Mm-hmm.
But I really, I remember sitting there next to her while she was ailing and just sick, and just wishing like I had the courage to ask her about this little girl that was born, because it's Becky and my family too. Like, we deserve to
Yeah.
know.
Well,
Absolutely.
it's just like Elise. I mean, there was always a part of me missing. And when you came and found us, I felt like there was a piece of the puzzle sliding back in.
Right.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, you were always on my mind. You were, every time I sat down at my computer desk. I mean, I knew you were there. And I think about Marcia just as much.
I
I
bet.
mean, you have family out there that is as close as a sibling. I mean, you can't get closer to another human being than a sibling.
Mhm.
And I mean, and then the magic of you coming into our lives. I mean, there's no way we cannot not do it now.
Yeah. It's
No, I agree.
important. I definitely think you should go for it.
We will for sure.
But don't be surprised what comes along digging up ancestry.com.
For sure. I
Because-
mean, you mean we're not going to be all sitting on a podcast like this next year after we find out?
You never know who might be added at that point in time. You never
Oh my
know.
Lord.
Oh my God. I mean, but
mean,
it's not always a happy ending of what you find.
No, it's not. It's not. But and you might find other, might dig up some stuff on dad and your mom. Like, I found out my mom was married to some other guy that I didn't even know. She never even talked about the guy. But it's just you dig up a lot of, it's cool stuff. It's very, very cool. But yeah, it'd be dope. It'd be real dope. You should definitely.
You know what
go
I
for it.
think a
Don't be
lot of
surprised.
us, fail to forget is that our parents had whole other lives before they ever had us. They were whole
What?
humans.
No.
They were whole
Right.
humans out there doing human things with other humans and human.
Yeah, but
things.
for that long, you had like 3 different marriages for that long, and you didn't tell us about any of this stuff. Some kids, like, I was always interested in my mom and just her life before, and she just never would talk about it. And I understand why now, but that maybe could have helped me again. I mean, I didn't turn out terrible. I'm not saying that. I didn't turn out terrible, but never know. Maybe I would have turned out differently.
Elise, you're phenomenal. Like, there's nothing terrible about you. I mean, we all just are a different rhythm, a different beat. But
Yeah.
when I asked you about, like, let's talk about our different upbringings, it was not to play any kind of comparison game or anything
I
like
know.
that. It is because, like, I'm genuinely interested in the things that you've experienced in your life, and you are, and we are who we are because of the experiences that we've been through, good and bad.
Yes, for sure.
For sure. I mean, there's a lot of things that, we may complain about always having been the adults, or, really wish that there was things that we hadn't experienced in life, but they've made us resilient. They've made us incredibly aware. And the older I get, the more I fully lean in and accept my truths, like, unapologetically.
As you should. Okay.
As I should, for sure.
As you should.
And it's liberating. It's liberating to do that. And it's liberating to do so in a way that is public, like this, because a couple reasons. One of them is it's healing. It is allowing you to heal, to speak your truths out loud. And also, you're helping other people heal. Like, you are letting other people know that they are not alone and they can relate. And there's real people out there that are dealing with the same shit you are, and they have gone through some of the same things. And that is comforting.
Yes.
Rebecca, you are so
What?
quiet.
What? Oh,
She's like, you're gonna make me talk.
I know, right? What is it you, okay. Well, I just think the whole experience for me has been wondrous. It opened up like the possibilities. I mean, you can't always, I mean, life gives you lemons, you make lemonade and all that crap, but I mean, the possibility of Elise becoming reality, being real and being here and being in my phone and coming to my house. And I mean, the possibility that you're real, that here's my baby sister. I mean, the possibility of you just was a miracle for me. It was like a door opener for me in my brain, that like something that you forever thought would never happen or you'd never find it, like suddenly it's there. So it's like, oh, Bob, that unlocked the door. So, I mean, you're my little miracle baby.
Oh.
I can remember the first time I saw you like for real, not just like video chat or something. Oh my God. I still had my kitchen, my storefront kitchen. And it was a very like stressful time of life. And you walked in the door with flowers, a bouquet of flowers, like hiding your face. And you always have the most like characteristically beautiful nails that you do yourself. Yes, I see them. You're an absolute artist.
Thank you.
And that's what I saw like right away, was like these beautiful, like gorgeous nails. And I'm like, oh, there she is. That's Elise. And I just started crying. I'm going to start crying right now. It was just so beautiful, like that you walked into my day like you did. And like at exactly the moment I needed you to. I needed like a hug that day so bad.
Mhm.
And there you were.
Yes, and that picture, what's really crazy is for some reason, in that picture, we really look alike.
Yeah, and usually we don't. Like you, I mean,
Yeah.
it's you and Becky that look alike.
Yeah, but in that picture, I was like, oh my God, we look alike. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I was so nervous and excited and happy, and that's my thing too. I like to surprise you guys. Like, it sucks that like we're so close. Becky's kind of far, but not too far. It's only 6 hours. But we're like right around the corner, but we're not. And it just sucks that it's not like, girl, open your door. I done got this food and these margaritas and you making me wait, like it just sucks. It can't be like that. That's the only thing that.
Yeah, you just
And a
want to be
lot
able
of
to
my
pop
family's
over.
in Indiana. Yeah, a lot of my family's in Indiana. So
Well, tell me
maybe I'll
about
get that
that.
courage.
Well, we've talked about that before. Your courage to, I know, I see your face. I wish all our listeners could see your face that you're making right now. I've talked to you about your courage stepping into it.
Yeah.
Tell me about that first time that you and Rebecca met. Who wants to say it? Who wants to talk about it? Dun dun dun.
It was like a marshmallow and a chocolate bar melting together.
Oh my God, I love that.
That's what it was
Meant
like.
to be.
Yeah, it was like that. And yeah, it was. That's the best I don't know how to say it. And then we just sat there and laughed and had our little margaritas and stuff and talked, and your mom was there.
Yeah.
That was when she was there, and I got to meet her too. So it was like, again, it was just like all love. So there was no bitterness like from her, and she was very open and interested, and it was just great. We just made s'mores pretty much. That's how it
Yeah.
was. It was like so normal. It was just
Yeah,
so
that's a
normal.
great way to say it. It felt like so normal. Yeah.
Yes. It just felt like so normal.
How do you guys feel we are most alike? And how are we most different? We all
I
have to
would say
answer.
attitude. is something we're all alike about, even though we all express it differently in very different ways. All of us have high level attitude. And I mean, for very nice people, you know, all have that attitude. Some of us hide it better than others, but that's what I would say that I can notice the most in common between all of us. I mean, outside of the, you know, the bond that's there, it's that attitude. And I love that.
Yeah.
A little bit
Mhm.
scrappy. All of us can be a little bit scrappy, I think, just in different ways.
Yeah.
I think from my perspective, I probably would say we are as different as we are the same in a lot of ways. You know, we all have very different ways of, I think, processing our traumas and approaches to our healing from different things. And we all show up different in our lives.
Mhm.
But at the same time, that sameness is there in the way that we care about our families, and we're deeply committed to the people that we love. That for sure, you know, even through the hurt, even through being disappointed or having conflict amongst those that we love the most, that back will never be turned completely. I think we're
Mhm.
all very forgiving. And I don't know if I'd use the word accepting for some of this, but we are all very open to accepting other people as who they are.
Yes, unfortunately, sometimes.
Unfortunately, sometimes for sure. But I feel
Man.
like I have learned to really do that as the older I get. And Becky can attest to this. And I'll just say this about myself is I have a strong personality in that I tend to want things to be a certain way or think they should be a certain way. And when they're not, sometimes I have a difficult time reminding myself that like I'm not in charge of managing other people's way of life or decisions they make. And that's something that I have worked on continuously in my life, and I feel like have had progress with in recent years. But it's still an ongoing thing. That's one of my, I feel like, character flaws is that I don't want to say that I judge people, although I'm sure it's been perceived as that over the years. So much as I want you to like hold yourself up to a high standard. I want you to hold yourself accountable and like give a shit, I guess.
Right.
And when I feel like you're not, or you're like disrespecting other people, then that for me is where that feeling that I feel like I need to be in charge or manage something or be that adult all the time kicks into overdrive. And then I have to pull myself back in and remember I am not them and they are not me.
Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. And not everybody has common sense. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the brightest crayon in the box. But a little common sense and a little consideration for others will get you a long way.
Yeah.
It'll get you a very long way.
And also remembering that just because you're not the brightest crayon in any particular scenario doesn't mean your crayon doesn't work at all.
Yes, absolutely. Correct. That's good too. Yes. Yes.
And broken crayons still color.
Yes, it does.
Yes, for
Yes, it
sure.
does. And you can sharpen it.
Right?
Yes, I love that so much. And I know that we all have felt broken at different parts in our lives, and that ebbs and flows. And sometimes it's a reflection of the things we went through growing up. Sometimes it's a reflection of the things that we're going through now as adults. But nobody's actually broken. You know, we may need some repairs here and there, but we are fixable. Everything is figure outable. Do either of you have any comments on the way you do life now in regards to it pertaining to or being related to how you grew up? Like, what I mean by that is, how do you think the way that you grew up affects who you are now as women?
Tremendously.
Tell me how.
With, of course, different environments bring out different things, and that's why a lot of people say you're a product of your environment. So there's a lot of things that could have been my outcome, as far as being in jail, being dead. A prostitute was real high. I could just walk out. I lived on Butler, so it was like a downtown, kind of not too far from, a couple blocks from downtown area. When we first moved here, it was kind of bad, and I could have easily been a junkie. That was easy, coming from that area. And again, we're from Gary, you know. So with my environment being the way it was, we all start off nice and innocent, and naive to the world. Um, and depending on some of your upbringing, some of us grow up off of love and some of us grow up off of survival. I grew up off of survival. So even with that, how that alone affects me is it's hard for me to say I love you sometimes. And that's for, when you love somebody, that's easy, that's simple. That's, I'm just now, with some of the things that happened growing up, I'm just now being comfortable with even allowing my boyfriend to like fully touch me and like correct, love me and stuff, and me even being able to be affectionate to my partner. I'm learning that now, and I'm 34 years old, and my prior relationships weren't like that. It wasn't, oh, mwah, hey honey, hey, how's your day, blah blah, have a good day. That wasn't, or bottling everything up because you don't have nobody else, or not asking for help because you never had it. What are you gonna ask for? Ask for what? So unfortunately for me, and I'm sure a lot of people, it personally affected me a lot, but now, and I think in a good way as well. Trust issues, of course. I'm sure we all have a little bit of them, but there's a lot of things um, growing up that definitely affected me as an adult, for sure.
Yeah, I would say when you said, some of us grow up on love and some of us grow up on survival. I speak for myself when I say it was probably a combination of both in my world. What do you think about that, Becky?
Well, we definitely had a combination of both. I think, to keep it very simple, the chaos of the way we were brought up is what affects me the most, because it's very easy for me to slip into chaos. And I'm actually comfortable in chaos.
I can understand that.
But, you can't live your life in chaos. So I have to rein it in.
Chaos in what way?
Well, just like, letting things get out of control, staying somewhere too long where you shouldn't be, getting, intimidated by the school moms and not wanting to go to the PTA meeting. Just like things like that, that I recognize traits in myself that I'd seen in mom. And I think a lot of that was the chaos for her, and so, I'm forever reining myself in and trying to make myself, cool with it, and not spin into the chaos of it and freak myself out.
Yeah, that inner turmoil, I think is the word I would use, is turmoil of just that forever churning of emotion or
maybe
thinking.
not knowing.
Well, I feel like my brain doesn't shut off. And there's always a lot of like spinning of 20 different thoughts at one time. That turmoil, that word I'll use for that is, I feel like a product of my experience of childhood, of just that I absorbed my childhood in a way that I think caused a lot of things like the onset of OCD tendencies and control issues.
Mm-hmm.
And those things are things that I've had to work on as an adult. And it took me a long time to even see them in myself. And once I saw them, realized they were a problem. So those are just a couple of things that I can identify. But, you know, in some way, shape, or form, we are all products of that,
Mm-hmm.
of the way that we were brought up. But when there's trauma related, or when there's addiction and things like that in your early developmental years, it really can take a toll as an adult, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say I have a independent complex. So especially in relationships, like I won't, if I can't afford a place by myself, I don't care if we're moving in together or not. If I can't afford it by myself, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
If I can't do everything by myself, and I know that if I choose to tell you to leave or you choose to tell me to leave, like I have a really, really, really super bad independent complex. Like it's bad. It's bad.
That's
It
that
is.
survival, that's the survival
Yeah.
mindset that you've developed. And, you know, in some ways that's not terrible.
But
What is the best part about finding each other?
the love, of course.
Right?
Were you scared that you wouldn't be like welcomed with open arms, Elise, when you found us?
Of course. But I was like, I'm just gonna go in and be me. You don't like me, you don't like me, and like
She
it
gives
just
zero fucks, people, okay?
pretty much, you know how I am. Pretty much, I was just like, hey, look, and again, we were all adults, like, but I had to understand what I'm coming into. Did they know anything about me? Was it all a secret? Did they know? And they were kind of like mad. Like, did my mom mess up a happy home? There's a lot of other things that came along with that. And that's exactly why I told Dad, look, I need the raw and uncut. I don't want no sugarcoating. I just want the truth. I just want the truth. I don't want anything more, anything less.
You know
and
what
it
I'll
was
say? You know what I'll say about what you said right there, though? Like coming in as adults, what you just said. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be real honest with myself. Had you come into our bubble like when we were kids, I would have been a total asshole.
exactly. And I couldn't be mad. Maybe I wouldn't understand at that time because again, you guys had your home and your family, and I never experienced that before. I don't know what that's like. So I probably would have more been like a aw, and that could have gave me a bad experience. Like I don't want to go see my dad no more. I don't want to go up there no more. I don't want to, and could have been something totally different compared to what it is now and what it should be.
Well, I can tell you when I was a kid, and the memories I have a lot about Dad are like visiting him in rehab, or knowing that he went to jail, or, you know, finding drug paraphernalia, or, you know, other things that just were traumatic. And I, even though those things were there, I very much wanted to have a relationship with my dad, and I loved my dad. And but because of that, like I was always grasping at something, like always trying to grasp some type of like, you know, daddy daughter experience. And I feel like had you come into our bubble during that time, I would have been an asshole to you because I would have felt so threatened. Like now there's somebody else trying to have a relationship with my dad.
That I don't even get time with him.
Yeah, I would have been horrible to you. And thank God, like that is one of the main reasons that I am glad I met you when I was older and more mature as an adult, because,
Nah.
well, it's true though. It's true. And you know
We
what? I
would have
know
had
it's
some
true.
good stories. We would have had some good stories. Probably a couple
Yeah.
scars between us two, but we would have had some good stories. Like my fucking little sister.
Yeah.
She's coming. But I can completely understand that. And that is things that I thought about, like normal child things.
Mhm.
So that plays a big difference, plays a big part. Because who knows what kind of relationship we would have had.
Yeah. I mean, I was just kind of even like looking back on just kid interactions in general. Like I was kind of an asshole kid to some people. And I know now looking back, it was because I was trying to control anything around me because there was so much at home I couldn't control, including the relationship with my dad.
So you were like a bully?
I think I did do that a little bit, and I'm so ashamed to say that, but there was one girl in particular that I can remember from elementary school. I mean, I didn't like fight her. I mean, there was no like hitting or anything like that, but I was not kind to her. And I wish I knew where in the world she was because I'd love to apologize. That's always something that's kind of haunted me, like not being
Once you
kind to somebody.
find, if you can, you'll feel so much better. So
Yeah.
same. I was in a situation where I bullied a girl. I fought a lot in school. I fought a lot in school. I fought a lot growing up. And there was one that I can honestly say I bullied that girl. I literally like chased her in the classroom and drug her out the classroom and beat her
Oh
up
my gosh, girl.
and she was like screaming for help and I just was like, shut up. But we ran into each other again. One of my first jobs was Ponderosa at 16. And she was the dishwasher there. And I made amends with her and I apologized. Like I feel so sorry. Even to like I get the chills right now just talking about it, like you said, because it's just so disgusting. Like who fucking does that? And I was bullied. Again, I was bullied in the neighborhood because I was Hispanic. I'm Hispanic, Puerto Rican, but to them I'm a white girl. I was the only white girl in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it felt so good to like apologize to her and to let her know like I'm sorry, and I just there's nothing you could do to make up for that because who knows what kind of trauma she had from there on.
Yeah.
And she was a little like special ed at that.
Mm.
Once I found that out, I was like, wow, how low can a person go? That was really, really low. But that was me taking my anger out on somebody else that from the people that was taking it out on me.
Well, what we know about bullying is that it is a byproduct of trauma, of some type of trauma. People aren't usually, I will say, naturally mean or want to do mean things. As a
Right.
kid, it's the way that you unfortunately process or deal with the things that you can't control. And yeah, I mean, I never, aside from Becky and I fist fighting as kids, which that definitely happened. Aside from us beating the crap out of each other, like I never physically like fought anybody. It was all just mean words and being unkind, which I have a lot of regret about. And if I could go back and talk to, that was like fourth or fifth grade. I mean, if I could go back and talk to that little girl and just help her know that she's safe and she doesn't have to do that, gosh, that would be such a miracle.
Yeah, I definitely understand that for sure.
Guys, I've loved this conversation so much. Oh my gosh, there's so many just different things that we could talk about. But I want to know if either of you have anything else you want to share or give to our listeners.
I don't. I think that we covered a heck of a lot. I mean, I'm more than willing to come back. If anybody has any questions for us or anything like that, I'm definitely down to, answer questions or whatever else. And there's hella topics, man, that we could go on about. But yeah, it's definitely a blessing. And again, it came all at the right time and somewhat unexpectedly as well. For sure for you guys. For sure for you guys. But very much so a blessing. And I just wish that we were all a little closer. But
Becky, tell me what you want to say to our listeners as we end our conversation today.
Just to be, when something unexpected happens, just open your heart to it, because I mean, it could be a miracle that could change your life. So, I mean, it could be a big thing or a small thing, but just be open to those miracles.
Absolutely. I love that so much. Be open to the miracles that are around you and the ones you don't even know that are there, right?
Right.
And, you know, to our listeners, this has been such a private part of our lives that we've shared with you today. And to my sisters, thank you for like being willing to have this conversation with me and being willing to share it, because I know it's not always easy to talk about our truths and our stories. But if it can help even one other person out there listening know that they can lean into something that they're afraid of, or take a step towards a journey that they've been hesitating to do, then it's worth it. I love you guys.
I love you too.
I love you both.
Love you guys.